things that I think on sometimes, and they kind of go through my mind, and that's sort of where I've been lately, trying to decide what direction to go in and where we are. We're going to pick up where we've been the last few Wednesday nights, but I spent a lot of time today, and well, in fact, since Sunday, I guess it was last Saturday afternoon or sometime Saturday when I did some studying for Sunday that I got to think about all this that I was going to talk about. But in 1 John chapter 1, verse 8, we've been talking about this first few verses of 1 John, and I know I miss the mark every time when I try so hard to kind of explain and figure things out and so forth. And as Jana says all the time, don't overthink it, and I do that sometimes too much. So when I've been trying to think on, but I've been thinking a lot about how we really dealing with verses 8 through 10. That'll close out chapter 1. So we're going to do that tonight. But I'm going to try not to be what it turned into this afternoon when I was sitting there trying to kind of go over it. I could get kind of chasing too many different paths the rabbits have been on. But in verse 8, John says, if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. Now, at one minute you look at that and you say, well, if we say we have no sin, that means if I say I don't ever sin, or what is this? Foot. They got a little old name for it anyway. I'll think of it in a little bit. Of the people who believe that once they get saved, they reach a point of where they don't sin at all. That's very difficult for me to grasp how anybody could deceive themselves that way. But as I started looking at that verse and started talking about it in my mind, sometimes y'all would think I was crazy as a bat if you were to come to the shop. Some of the times when I'm preparing, for especially for Wednesday nights, because I start preaching out loud. But when I read that over again this afternoon, I said, I know y'all have heard that the last 3 weeks, but it's impossible to me to even think about anybody that could make or would want to make such a claim as that, because we all, if we be honest with ourselves, then we know exactly what it's like. It's like a man who says he can't find any water and he's sitting out in the middle of the ocean, because the truth is that we all know that we have that problem. So I got to thinking about it. Well, what does really the Bible, what sin really is, and what does the Bible really, how does it define it for us, the biblical doctrine of sin? And I know, it's easy to go a little too deep. So, but what does it really mean? And it means that from the time of birth, certainly we have sin nature, thanks to Mom and Daddy, Adam and Eve. But we can't blame them, because God's the one who created us. They were the original ones to exercise that old sin nature. But it really does mean that as soon as you're old enough to discern between right and wrong, then the Lord begins to hold you accountable for things that you do, and what happens with that. I mean, there's a lot of people. In fact, most of the world today. I've had this happen to me many times. People said, "Well, sin." You preachers like to preach this thing about sin, and all it is just theologians and that don't want people to have any fun anymore. And I'm saying, well, look, there's nothing about sin. Yeah, it may be fun for a season. I mean, I'd be telling a non-truth if I said to people that are sinning not having any fun. But it's a temporary thing. It's a thing that goes down to the depths of our soul, because there's two things about us as human beings. One is that we do have that propensity to sin, or that sin nature, because when a baby is born, from the time it's born, there is within that child that same blood that's in all of us, and as we develop, then what begins to happen. And to me, I think there are people who try several different ways to handle it. Certainly we try to justify our sins. I don't want to have sin and lingering in my life. I don't want to be looking around saying, "Oh, I've sinned and I've got to do something about it." But a lot of times we want to rationalize. We'll say, "Well, everybody else is doing it." All that old junk that even comes back from My mom, my mom used to tell me, she said, I think if your friends told you to set the house on fire, you'd go ahead and just fall right in there and do it. So my whole point on that is that we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But what does it mean, really, to have a sin nature? And we all kind of heard that over and over in our lifetime. But to me, I'm not a sinner because I sin. Okay, get it straight. I sin because I'm a sinner. I have a propensity, I have a nature within me that is going to sin. So I inherited that nature from those before me, my parents and their parents and the parents before them. Sin is not new. It's old as the hills. It's old as mankind is. And though it may be different in some of the things that we do now or how we go about it, but when you look at these little babies, we love our little children. I do. I love kids. I love children. And I love to play with them, and I love to watch them play. But if you got two kids in a room and you got one toy, what's the situation? I don't care if they're deacons' kids, pastors' kids, or the drunk down the street's kids. If one kid sees another kid playing with a toy, then what does he do? He runs over and he grabs it, snatches it away, and hollers, "Mine!" Okay, well, the other kid, and you know what the other kid's going to do. He's going to say, "Oh, that's okay. You go ahead and play with it a while, and you get tired of it, I want it back." Is that what they do? Oh, no, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. And then World War III is all its own, boy. Well, raise your hand if you want to on this next question. How many of you have ever taught your child to do that? Didn't have to, did you? I mean, they just came here with it. And so it's sort of like, the nature. It's just sort of like it comes naturally. Now, when we look at that and we think about that, people often ask this question, and I want you, it sounds simple, but apply it. People will say things like, is there one sin that's worse than another sin? Is there such a thing? How many times have you ever heard that old saying, well, if you think it, you might as well go ahead and do it? Is that right? Is that accurate? Oh, no. Don't ever be guilty of thinking, well, if I'm thinking it, I might as well go ahead and do it. Oh, no, 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 no. But it is a good question to ask, is one sin worse than the other? Because God does say about the 10 Commandments, if you've broken one, you've broken them all. Well, the truth of the matter is that the 10 Commandments and God's conversation there is that, if you've broken one 10 Commandment, then you've broken the chain, because it's all a part, it's all commingled together. If you're trying to obey God and you tell a falsehood, I'm not going to call it a lie at the moment because we'll explain it, but if you tell a falsehood, well, you might as well go murder somebody, right? It's all the same thing, right? No, not at all. All sin is equally wrong, okay? But not all sin is equally bad. Does that make sense? Well, I get to thinking about that. It's like saying, well, some good deeds is better than other good deeds. Does that make sense too? Or are we all just to consider everything and say, hey, God, I just want to be obedient? Because I'll tell you, when you think about sins and the equality of sins, think about it this way. Had you rather somebody hate you in their heart or kill you? To me, that's the difference between, that's what identifies to me the significance of that statement that says, if you think it, you might as well go ahead and do it. No, that's not even close. Because when Jesus said, if you look upon a woman to lust after her, then you committed adultery with her already in your heart. Does that mean you just well go ahead and commit adultery with her? No, it is, sin is as God was trying to point out in the statement about the 10 Commandments, each command of God, each thou shalt or thou shalt nots or whatever we commit against God in any deed whatsoever, whether it be thought, whether it be a sin of commission, something we do, or a sin of omission of something we should have done but we didn't do, we cannot say that they are equal in the sense of their consequences, in the sense of what they do outside of us. So you say, well, then all sin is equal. All sin is bad. All sin is equally bad in the sense that it is, it's wrong. All sin is equally wrong in coming before God for account. Not all sin carries the same weight of wrong because it is so much more damaging and so much more harmful. So when we look at that, I would much rather you think about killing me than I had for you to just go ahead and do it. And in that sense, then you find out, yeah, it is. Now, Satan is very, very crafty when it comes to this thing of sin. Number one, Satan is going to do his best to tempt you into doing it, right? You know that. He's going to put it out there, and he's going to make it look so good. And he's going to try his best to convince you nobody will ever know. And even if they do know, it's really not going to hurt anybody. But what happens when you give in to that sin? Now think about this, or that temptation. Temptation itself is not a sin, because we all experience it. It's going to come to us whether we like it or not. And I've used this example before, but it's the truth. To tell yourself, well, I'm just not going to think about that anymore. All right, well, tell me, how many of you, if I tell you not to think about an elephant, what are you going to think about for the next few seconds? You're going to think about an elephant, but my point is, don't do that to yourself, because it's an open invitation for Satan to say, well, okay, I'm just never going to do this thing anymore again. I'm never going to. And I call it white knuckle Christianity. I'm just not going. No, don't do that, because that just opens up Satan's opening. Here's what you do. Instead of doing that, you just say, I'm going to strive to please God, period. And you can focus on that. Satan don't want to hear that, and he don't want to be any part of it. But the craftiness of Satan is how he will tempt you with something. He will try his best to convince you that it's okay. After all, the Bible doesn't specifically say, thou shalt not do this or think this or whatever. But once he gets you to commit it, then what does he do? He turns right around and says, oh, now you blowed it. Huh? You know where I'm coming from, don't you? Yeah, now you've done it. Now you've done it. God don't care about you no more. God don't want nothing to do with you anymore. You blowed it. Now you just come on. Why does he do that? He does it. He does it so you will sink into that old despair and self-condemnation. Satan loves it when you start to pray, and all you can do is just say, God, I'm so sorry. I'm so low down. I'm no good. Don't let Satan do that to you. Don't let it happen to you. John puts it this way. He says, if we say we have no sin, then, he says, we're really deceiving ourselves. In what way? We try to justify it. We try to hide it. We try to forget about it. We try to tell ourselves it was all right. But when we really start to try to ignore what we've done, ignore the truth of the sin we've committed and try to say, well, God doesn't really mind and so forth. Listen, if the doctor were to tell somebody you're terminally ill and you're going to die within 6 weeks, well, doctor, I don't believe that, and just go home and act like, hey, I'm not going to die. I'm all right. Nothing wrong with me. Now, what's going to happen? And then you think about it all the time.